Welcome to Wing Academy Video, an extension of Wing Academy of Unfoldment. I'm your host, Diane Wing, and my show focuses on how to use spiritual concepts in the real world. We will address issues related to the mind, body, and spirit, discover how to release what holds us back, and ways to come into our power. Learn more at dianewing.com. I am very excited to welcome my friend and special guest, Kirsten Weiss. Kirsten writes mysteries that re-enchant the everyday, cozy mysteries with a twist. High-anxiety sleuths in the UFO B&Bs, witches who treat magic as real transformation, metaphysical schools where ancient symbols become ladders out of the ordinary. If you're tired of predictable tea and crumpets cozies and craving stories that charm you silly while quietly handing you the tools for deeper meaning, chosen growth, and everyday enchantment, then Kirsten's work is for you. Learn more at kirstenweiss.com. And I'm going to share your homepage here. And welcome, Kirsten.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to see you again, Diane.
Same here. Now, you've been on the show before, but it's always a pleasure to have you because you're always creating something new.
Oh,
So
thank you.
we need to update every so often. And my first introduction to your work, and yes, I was reading the Riga Hayworth initially, the metaphysical detective books, but what really grabbed me, and I'm just being honest here, was the A Perfectly Proper Paranormal Museum Mystery Series, because how fun is that? And I would go.
Yeah, I want to be there.
Um, and I've followed your heroine, so I continue to love that series. And you just put out a new book in that series, didn't you?
Yes, A Deathly Display is
Yes.
the next book in the series. It's not the last one, though.
Okay, great. And that's great news for anybody on here who knows that series. And it's fun to know that we're not done yet. Um, so can you tell us about the character arc and what readers can expect? And I do recommend reading it in order, that one, right? So,
Yeah, because of the character arc, I think it's more fun to read it in order. You don't have to if you're more interested in the mystery and the puzzle, that's all there too. But I really like characters who grow and develop, or else I get bored with them. I get bored reading them. I get bored writing them. And also I just like people who grow and develop. And I mean, I know I am so much different than I was in my 20s. I'm a completely different person. And thank goodness for that, quite honestly. Um, so yeah, Maddie, we meet Maddie. She has lost her high flying international job, and she's landed back in her little cow town in Central California. Which it's a wine town, but it's actually modeled after Lodi, which is also a wine town, but it's not one of the glamorous wine towns. It's very flat there, so it's not as gorgeous. But anyways, so she kind of falls into this job running a little paranormal museum, which she doesn't believe in the paranormal. But what she does like though is marketing. She loves marketing. She loves the creativity, and that's kind of her hook into the world. Like, how can I turn this museum around? Which is this little town. It's just this little tourist attraction, and each book each book has a mystery. It has the prime murder mystery, and then it has a mystery about an object in the museum. So there's a paranormal object that she's kind of investigating, trying to figure out. And for most of the series, she's very agnostic on the paranormal. And then at one point, she kind of tips into it and is like, I can't deny this anymore. Which I think is actually quite realistic, because for most of us, when we have a paranormal encounter, it's that thing just out of the corner of your eye, or that weird thing that happened that you just can't explain. And maybe there's a logical explanation, but you can't figure it out. And you're just going back and forth like, is it? Isn't it? That's for most of us, that's what the paranormal is. It isn't the big, magical experience. And so that's, her progression there. But she's also progressing as she's maturing. She's getting to understand what her values are. She has two very nice relationships, but they're not quite right. And they're not quite right because she's not quite right at that point. There's something wrong with her, but she hasn't quite figured things out yet. And so we see her growing personally and professionally, and we see her relationship with her family kind of coming together more, and her understanding her mother better, and the reader understanding her mother better. And so there's a lot going on, and a lot of the characters are developing too. When you first meet them, they come off as a little just kind of weird and quirky, but then as you get to know them, you start to see the depth. They have backstories and they have reasons that they are the way they are, and they're not just these one-dimensional characters, which is, again, I think very real. When we first meet people, we just see the superficial, and then as we get to know them, we get to know so much more about who they are as humans and how deep
Yeah.
and complex they are.
Well, especially the relationship with her mother. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to how they interact. And there are some humorous moments. I mean, it's not all contentious here, guys. Like, you do write with some sense of humor here in most of your narrative. So it's not like, oh my God, like I don't want to get in the middle of this family drama, but it does add depth to the characters, absolutely. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's fun.
yeah, I think most of us have that relative who were just like, ugh. But then again, as your relationship changes with them, as you get to know them more as people instead of just Aunt Maud or Mom, things change and you start to understand things better. And it's I mean, yeah, they're really fun characters. I love the people in that story. And that's why I think I've kind of been building out that world beyond the books. They have their own Twitter feed from the museum, and they have their own little museum website. And yeah, I've really been playing with it.
Yeah, you have merchandise. It's cool. It's
Yeah.
definitely, it's a lot of fun. I mean, part of your brand is fun.
Oh, very much so. I mean, so I do love magic and philosophy and all that good stuff, but I also really believe when you start taking yourself too seriously, that is when things go very badly. And we're on this planet. Let's have fun. It doesn't have to all be storm and drang.
That's right. And the characters in all your series demonstrate that eternal journey of personal transformation. So tell me more about that. Like you were saying that you would get bored if they didn't start to develop more depth in some way.
Yeah, I want to see people learn from their mistakes because I hope I can learn from my mistakes. We want to get better. And
Yes.
and so the challenge is that originally when I started writing, the big challenge was in a traditional hero's journey format. The hero starts with something is lacking inside him or her, and they go through this big journey and transformative adventure. And there's this point where if they don't change, there's going to be a disaster. They're going to either die physically or some sort of spiritual death or something. And so they have to change. And then once they make the change, they're able to defeat the bad guy, get the treasure, win the maiden, whatever it is. And so the challenge for a first time writer is when you're writing a series, it's like, okay, well, I've done this my first book. Now, what do I do in the second book? But then I realized nobody's perfect. You never achieve perfection. You grow and then you grow some more. And so you're continually on this journey. And
If we're
frequently,
lucky, if we're
if we're
lucky, we
lucky,
keep growing.
yes, if we're lucky, and if we're trying to, if we're aware,
Yeah,
I think.
that's right. Yes.
And another thing is that what I discovered is the whole spiral symbol is that a lot of this journey, it isn't like this. It's a spiral where you're getting closer and closer, but you're still making mistakes and you're still kind of making similar mistakes, but in a different way. And you don't figure it out. There's no figure it out point unless you're Jesus, maybe. But there's a few people maybe who have reached enlightenment, but for most of us, we're just on the spiral trying to get closer and closer
Or
and
we're
closer
like
to it. Yeah, exactly. It's this snake-like pattern. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times when I'm reading, especially a series, I'm very interested in the B story. It's not always just about that main mystery. It's the mystery of the person and what are they going to do. And if I read about a character that's making repeatedly silly mistakes, I'm done. Like I stop reading it
yeah,
because I get frustrated.
yeah, me too. And I think I approach mystery writing a little bit differently. I usually start with the B story in my mind, at least. Like, what is this? What is this thing that the hero or heroine has her goal that she's going for, and the murder is going to come crashing into it somehow and derail everything. And so she's going to be fighting to get her goal back on track and figuring out, is this really my goal? Is this my true goal, or is something else my goal, or am I just approaching it incorrectly? And in the meantime, trying to solve the murder so she can, achieve her goal. And I also usually have some little romantic subplot dancing around the edges as well. But I try to. I'm really more about the mystery. I do enjoy romance and I do enjoy romantic subplots, but that's not the prime area. That's again, it's a C plot, I would call it.
The C plot, okay. When I say B story, I'm talking about the character's growth and
Yeah,
how what they did in the last book, how that figures into this book. Did they learn anything?
yeah,
Because for me, it's all about the learning and like you write, the personal transformation. Because if there isn't any, it's boring. It's really if they're the same over time, there's no interest there.
yeah.
So, in the same way, you've also written a tarot book, and that's something we
Yeah.
have totally in common. Um, and as this is the Mysteries of the Tarot, a work of imagination, and there's the Untarot deck and app that goes with this. And as a longtime tarot practitioner myself, and for those who are also in the audience, can you describe what untarot means? And then we'll talk about your approach to tarot in this book.
Right. So friends of mine and readers kept asking me if I was going to create a tarot deck because I have a series called a Tea and Tarot series set in a tea room with tarot readers. And I write about tarot a lot. And in my witch mysteries, I write about tarot quite a bit. And so I kept getting this question and I kept thinking, no, because there are so many tarot decks out there, so many beautiful tarot decks out there. I have a lot of tarot decks, a ridiculous amount. And I just didn't think I could add anything to the tarot deck. It's a specific structure with 5 suits and certain symbolism, and I didn't think that was for me. But then when I started working on my mystery school series, I really wanted them to have to work with some sort of tarot and have their own deck because traditionally mystery schools part of their teaching is through the tarot cards, and they will have their initiates create their own decks and really dig deep into the symbols so they understand the esoteric meanings behind them and the magic behind it. But again, I was back to I don't want to create a tarot deck. But then I thought, if I'm really using this as a teaching deck for a mystery school, why don't I kind of deconstruct the tarot? And I'll call it the end tarot, and I'll take the concepts, the magical and esoteric concepts from tarot and the philosophical concepts from tarot, and just embed them much more obviously. I will actually name the cards love, things like that, and create it as a teaching deck. And so I created this untarot deck, and I used digital collage. I'll pull some cards out my purple pouch. This is the front of the deck, which is actually the book cover for one of my mystery school book series. And so, for example, this is the card of memory, and it has the goddess of memory, and how we use memory and magic is sort of behind it all. And here's the faith card, and it's a very feminine deck because my mystery school is about witches and women. So I think I've only got one masculine figure in the whole deck. Otherwise, it's animals and women. You can't see the women in there, but there's a tiny woman on top of that pyramid. And I I ended up creating. At first, I was just going to have it in the book, and then I thought, well, what if I made an app? And then I made a Untarot app, which is free, as you mentioned. And then I went crazy and made some cards for myself. I was like, I'll just do it for me. And then things just kept spiraling. And now I'm plotting a Halloween expansion pack for the deck.
Well,
You know how it
I
is.
think that there are so many tarot decks because it's all about interpretation, and the author and the artist is interpreting the universal wisdom held in these decks their own way. And so
Yes.
we have to connect, we as practitioners, readers have to connect with the right energies. I mean, I hear you about tons of decks. I don't even know how many. I always say 70, but I really have no idea how many decks I have, but each one has a different energy.
Oh, for sure.
And so we have to find the one that connects to our energy. And that's the one we're going to get the most information out of. So when you wrote the book here, and I think it's interesting that you chose an image of a high anxiety card here. That's the cover.
Um,
You can tell me more about that in a moment. But I said, Show me which one." This is bibliomancy. "Show me the card that I should spotlight from this book." So I opened it, and it was the sun. Yay! And the sun. This is how it's set up. I know it's small print and everything, but um, it's the meaning, enlightenment, positivity, warmth, self-confidence, freedom, conscious action. But then there's a little story. And so her name was Kim, and she was a Georgia peach, sunny and tan and blonde. And when she walked into the hall, everyone gravitated toward her. She wasn't particularly beautiful. She was particularly ordinary, all except her heart, which was spilling over with love. It made her irresistible. And so this is a very different approach than other tarot books. Can you tell us more about that?
so that came out of, so as I mentioned, I have my Tea and Tarot Cozy Mystery series, and one of the characters is Hyperion Knight. He's the tarot reader in this partnership. And he was always talking about writing a book. And so I started doing little blogs where he kind of talk about a tarot card from his life experiences, like personal experiences. And it again, these things kind of spiraled and grew and grew and grew. And so I decided, well, I'm just gonna make a book of his little stories, little vignettes, or almost like flash fiction about each tarot card, and then create it like a guidebook where this is a definition of the card. Here's this little piece of flash fiction which kind of explains the heart of the card, and then a little more detail about how you can use it and questions to ask when this card comes up, because Hyperion's very much all about the questions. If you don't have a good question, you are not going to get a good answer. So you really, that's how you dig into it. And then because I'm a cozy mystery writer, I'm like, I had to add a mystery to it. So the premise is that he has sent his manuscript off to a friend of his who's this sort of mystic figure in the woods. And the friend is sending back comments going card by card in order. And the comments are going into the footnotes. And as he's giving comments, he's talking about what's going on in his own life. And this murder mystery starts unraveling in the footnotes. But the trick was I ended up using a 5-act structure for his story because we've got 5 suits in the tarot deck, which is a classic
Hmm. Four
Aristotelian.
four suits plus the majors.
Yeah, so I call that 5. So I use that as
Okay.
5 acts. And
Okay.
and so the acts kind of track with what's happening in each tarot card, which was a big challenge, but it was a lot of fun. So you can read it for the little mystery, which is again just in the footnotes. You can treat it as a meditation on the cards. You can do bibliomancy like you did, and you can use it to learn tarot as well. I think it's just a solid, very basic tarot book.
Yeah, and you also give the structure of the Celtic cross in here. So if anybody is unsure about spread, they can use the Celtic cross to look at, what they're pulling and whether it's from the untarot or a traditional deck that you can
Yeah.
use. You can still use your own tarot in a Celtic cross.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think what I wanted to create a legit tarot guidebook and a work of experimental fiction, which I don't do a lot of experimental fiction, but I thought these two things mesh together well. Again, if you take the 5 act structure and aligned it with the 5 suits in the tarot, so it was a challenge. It was a lot of fun. I think it's been a little hard to market because most of my readers are like, this is a guidebook. What? and then people tarot readers are like, wait a minute, there's this mystery in the bottom. What's going on here? So it's a little confusing, and I don't know, but I'm very happy with the way it turned out.
Great. So tell me more about how you chose the cover image.
Well, again, that's kind of goes to my the mystery bent. I wanted something mysterious and dark, and the 8 of Swords just was such a great image, and like the way I could kind of cut out the background too. I think it just worked for my mystery novel aesthetic, I thought.
Okay. All right. Um, so coming up, I mean, how can you also have a Substack newsletter?
Yeah, I have a Substack newsletter. I post every Saturday. I talk about, or I write about writing, and I also write about the esoteric and the themes in my writing, which do tend to veer towards more esoteric ideas, especially when it comes to like Neoplatonism and Greek philosophy, which goes all the way back, of course, to tarot. It's all wrapped up in tarot ultimately. I talk a little bit about tarot, so I try to keep it entertaining, and not all about buy my books. Although, of course, when a new book comes out, I'm definitely telling people on my newsletter. But it's really, yeah, they're more. It's almost like a weekly essay, I would say, that comes out every Saturday.
And I get it, and I'm on your list, and it's also you're offering some guidance as well, like how to ask about certain things, how to tap into certain ways of being or energies, or the wisdom that can only come from inside of ourselves, because we know ourselves better than anyone. Um, and so, if you're interested, folks, in something like that, check out the Substack newsletter. It They can subscribe on your website. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a link right up front to subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. I didn't realize I'd accidentally created a paid version as well, and I hadn't realized it, and people started paying for it. And I wrote to them all, and I said, okay, I don't actually have it. And they're like, no, it's fine. We'll pay for it. It's like, okay. So I started coming up with a little extra. So if you pay for it, I will send you free books as well. But I love free subscribers. I am a free subscriber to most of my own newsletters. So just so you know, it will ask you if you want paid. You pretty much get everything except for free books if you are free.
That's a good tip. Um, so what direction do you feel you're going in with your series? Like you have so many series right now, um, that people can tap into, the Doyle witches, your UFO series here, um, the At Wit's End, your Mystery School, your Pie Town Cozies, Riga Hayworth Mysteries, the Tea and Tarot. Now there's one I didn't realize you did, Steampunk Mystery,
Yeah, I
Rocky
was
Bridges
young.
Mysteries.
Yeah, I mean, I've been experimenting with a lot of stuff. Right now, so I basically have 2 different types of mysteries. I've got my magical mysteries, which weirdly they tend to be more serious, which again is a little different. Most witch cozy mysteries are light and fluffy with talking cats, and those are super fun. And that's great, but it's not what I write. So I just want to let people know I write things that are a little more serious. I mean, they're fun. They're still cozy mysteries where all the violence happens off the page. It's not, you're not freaked out when you read it. It's a cozy, but it treats magic more seriously. And again, it treats the personal development a little more seriously too. And then I have my traditional cozy mysteries, which are just comedy. I mean, there is personal growth in there as well because again, I would get bored if I wasn't writing like that. But those are comedies, which I love. I love comedy. I love writing it. I love reading it. I will never give up my comedy, and I don't want to give up my magical stuff either. So,
Don't
you
you
know,
do don't you do a comedy group? Like, aren't you part of a?
oh no, I did take a class in stand-up comedy. A couple classes in stand-up comedy, and I did some stand-up. I'm not that great on stage. I'm better at writing jokes than I am at telling jokes, which my instructor told me flat out.
Ah,
He said,
wow, okay.
yeah, he said he was very polite. He said, there are two types of people in this world. There are people who are good at writing jokes, and there are people who are good at telling jokes. You, Kirsten, are good at writing jokes. And I thought, okay, I
Hey,
get it.
fair enough.
Yeah, so that's good because that's what I'm doing when I'm writing.
But that experience probably enhanced your ability to write jokes,
Oh,
don't you
for
think?
sure. Because 100%. Because there are specific techniques that stand-up comics use to write their jokes. There are little exercises they have to get to jokes, and methods for editing them down to get to the right joke. And yeah, I learned so much in that class. It was great cross training, which as a writer, I definitely believe in cross training. I believe in if you are a mystery writer, study food writing. If you are, take a class in comedy, you just do different things. It will all build your writing skills
It definitely will. Well, it'll also build your knowledge set and possibly inspire you in some other way. It's like
for sure.
my Chrissy the Shih Tzu cozy mysteries. I went because there's a policeman in there. I went to our local police academy, Citizens Police Academy, and I got to meet all of the different departments, SWAT and the bomb squad and the detectives and our tracking dog Moose, this giant dog. He's so cute. And and there were two female officers there that inspired the last book in that series. So you never know where that inspiration is going to come from.
Absolutely.
And just to know that things like, you can report a missing person before 24 hours. You things like that, they can't tell you don't leave town.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah,
I didn't know
because I
that.
asked that. I was like, can you say that you can't leave town? They're like, no. But it's in every TV show. But yeah, it's
Funny.
it's it's not a thing. And then they
Yeah.
kind of laughed when I asked if they do the chalk outline of the body anymore, and they're like, no, we don't do that.
That's what we have
But
cameras for.
yeah, but you find out things that you weren't aware of, and that really start to move your mind in different ways. And whether you're a writer or not, just as a person moving through life, it changes your perspective on everything.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of that whole personal development. So it's try new things, stretch your wings. Some of the stuff will make you uncomfortable. Some of the stuff you'll find you'll love, but whether it makes you uncomfortable or you love it, you're learning from it, you're growing, and hopefully having a good
Yes.
time.
Yes, good time is a good thing, yes. So, what do you want to tell our listeners before we go? Because our time is almost up.
I would say my Untaro app is free, and I think we'll hopefully give a link to it in the comments. Again, my Substack is free, so you can get to know me there. I've got a new book in my big murder mystery series called Big Deal, which unfortunately has nothing to do with tarot. That's coming out in a couple months. And my next book in my mystery school series, Refuge of the Witch, I believe will be coming out in July.
Great. And the latest Paranormal Museum is out now. It
Yes, a
just came
deathly
out in
display.
February.
Yes.
Okay, great. So visit her website, kirstenweiss.com, and So much information is on there, and you could buy all kinds of merchandise and see her books and explore the series because there are many. So, and they're in everywhere you would want to buy a book. So, thank you so much for being on today. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, thanks, Diane.